Why do intelligent people often feel isolated? Have you ever thought about why the deeper you immerse yourself in reflection, the more isolated you feel? The clearer you see reality, the less others want to hear you. This feeling isn't random, it's historically proven. Society has always been cautious of profound thinkers, not because they're wrong, but because they uncover what others prefer to conceal. History is full of examples. Socrates and Galileo, Nietzsche and Tesla, all these brilliant minds faced ridicule, pressure, and neglect, not due to a lack of wisdom, but because their discoveries made others uncomfortable. Philosopher Schopenhauer was convinced that intelligence is not so much a gift as a heavy burden, condemning those who can clearly see the truth to solitude. But why does this happen? Why does society reject those who differ in their thinking? The answer is hidden in human psychology. Imagine being near a physically strong person. You might admire their strength rather than feel inferior. Next to someone wealthy, you might feel envy but not perceive it as a personal insult. However, encountering someone intellectually superior provokes something entirely different. Psychologists have termed this phenomenon the mirror effect. A profound thinker doesn't just articulate unconventional ideas, they reflect the weaknesses and limitations of others, even silently. The mere presence of an intelligent person creates an uncomfortable sense of inadequacy in others. But why does intelligence generate such resistance? The answer lies in the nature of our self-perception. Strength and wealth are external. They don't threaten our inner identity. Intelligence, however, touches identity directly. We define ourselves through our beliefs and worldview. When someone questions what we consider obvious, it feels like a personal threat. Instead of acknowledging the value of intelligence, most subconsciously reject it. This reaction has ancient roots. Our brains evolved to avoid social conflict to ensure group survival. High intelligence is perceived subconsciously as a threat because it disrupts the usual social balance and may lead to isolation and rejection. Modern studies confirm this. Researchers discovered that encountering intellectual superiority activates the same brain region responsible for sensing threats and fear. This indicates that our resistance to deep thinking isn't whimsical, but an instinctive survival reaction. Social interactions confirm this further. When alone with an intelligent person, people feel less tense, but in groups where competition for social status arises, profound thinkers are perceived as direct threats. As a result, intellectuals often struggle to find genuine acceptance socially, though they can establish connections more easily in personal interactions. Thus, intellectual superiority even becomes a paradox. The deeper one tries to understand the world, the higher the risk of solitude, not by personal choice, but due to society's protective mechanisms. Continuing to explore the nature of resistance to intelligence, it is essential to understand how contemporary culture influences this phenomenon. In the era of digital technology and social media, the paradox of intellect has become even more pronounced. Social platforms today encourage simplicity, vibrancy, and emotionality in content rather than profound contemplation. Algorithms disseminate scandals, jokes, or provocations faster than meaningful and thoughtful ideas. Why does this happen? It's psychologically easier for people to process familiar and straightforward information. Complex ideas require effort, and people instinctively avoid cognitive strain. This phenomenon is known as cognitive ease. Our brains prefer simplicity to conserve energy and avoid internal discomfort. Moreover, psychologists have identified several phenomena explaining resistance to new ideas. Dunning-Kruger effect. People with low competence tend to overestimate themselves and dismiss profound thoughts, deeming them useless or incorrect. Status quo bias. Individuals prefer maintaining familiar arrangements and avoid changes, even if beneficial. Backfire effect. When confronted with information contradicting their beliefs, people typically do not change their opinions but rather strengthen their existing views. These cognitive biases are amplified by social media, where individuals create comfortable information bubbles around themselves. Social platforms select content that aligns with our existing perspectives, making us even less receptive to intellectual challenges. But the issue isn't limited to the internet. Rejection of deep ideas begins in schools and workplaces. Education, despite claiming to support creativity and independent thinking, often rewards obedience and rote learning in practice. Students who ask unconventional questions are often viewed as troublesome or problematic. In professional environments, intellectual excellence and innovation are valued less than the ability to adapt to corporate culture and support existing power structures. Politics and business vividly illustrate this. Those who say what the masses want to hear succeed more often than those offering complex and innovative ideas. Thus, society, despite its proclaimed pursuit of innovation and intellectual growth, actually resists it until ideas become safe and widely accepted. Many great minds of the past were rejected and forgotten during their lifetimes, only receiving recognition later. This demonstrates how deeply resistance to intellect is embedded in our cultural and social structures. We'll explore in greater detail how intellectual solitude has shaped the destinies of specific individuals, illustrated through historical examples. History is replete with examples of brilliant minds who faced rejection from the societies of their time. Socrates, the founder of Western philosophy, faced persecution for teaching people to think independently, accused of denying traditional gods and corrupting youth. He chose death by poison rather than fleeing, staying true to his convictions. His famous statement, "The unexamined life is not worth living," symbolizes society's reaction to uncomfortable truths. Galileo Galilei suffered greatly for his scientific discoveries. By proving that Earth revolves around the sun, he threatened the authority of the Church. Galileo was forced to publicly renounce his views, spending the remainder of his life under house arrest, his works banned for many years. Today, Galileo is hailed as a scientific hero. Yet, during his lifetime, he faced complete rejection. Friedrich Nietzsche, whose philosophical ideas today deeply influence psychology and literature, was rejected during his lifetime and labeled insane. His critique of moral norms and assertion of the necessity of creating one's own value system were too radical for his contemporaries. Nikola Tesla, creator of revolutionary ideas about wireless energy transmission, ended his life in poverty and obscurity as his inventions threatened the commercial interests of powerful businessmen and industrialists like Edison and Morgan. His concepts only gained widespread recognition many years later, once they no longer posed a threat to established financial interests. Alan Turing's story is especially tragic. His contributions to cryptography played a crucial role in World War II, saving millions of lives. Nevertheless, he faced severe persecution due to his personal life, ultimately driven to suicide following chemical castration because of his orientation. Recognition of his achievements came only decades after his death. Boo. These examples highlight how society resists intellectual achievements when they're perceived as threats to existing social, moral, or economic structures. The greatest ideas become recognized only when they no longer threaten the established order. Studying the lives of profound thinkers, it becomes evident that each of them faced active resistance from society, which rejected their ideas and viewpoints. However, many found effective ways to cope with intellectual isolation, utilizing various adaptation strategies. One striking example is the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, who not only highlighted the problem of intellectual loneliness, but also proposed concrete solutions. Schopenhauer viewed intellect not only as a source of knowledge, but also as a source of suffering. The clearer a person perceives reality, the harder it becomes to enjoy the illusions that make most people happy. However, he considered solitude a unique opportunity rather than a punishment. The first approach Schopenhauer suggested was accepting one's solitude as a natural state. Instead of attempting to meet the expectations of the majority, he advised using solitude for profound creative and intellectual growth. The philosopher himself exemplified this method by creating works in isolation, which gained recognition much later. Another approach used by many intellectuals was finding like-minded individuals. Feeling misunderstood and rejected, they formed small, intimate communities where they could freely discuss important ideas. Literary and scientific salons of the 18th and 19th centuries served as classic examples of such communities, providing intellectuals with an environment to exchange ideas and find moral support. Another effective strategy was carefully considered communication of their ideas, recognizing that society often wasn't immediately ready to accept complex ideas. Deep thinkers attempted to express their views clearly and understandably. Albert Einstein famously said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." This strategy helped reduce resistance and improve interaction with others. Lastly, philosophers and scientists employed the strategy of patient waiting, understanding that public recognition might come only years or even generations later. They viewed their work as a crucial legacy that would eventually resonate in the future. This was precisely the case with Nikola Tesla and Alan Turing, whose ideas became widely recognized only after their deaths. Nonetheless, these strategies couldn't entirely resolve the fundamental issue. Society tends to reject revolutionary ideas until their practical benefits become undeniable. Psychologists refer to this phenomenon as the delayed acceptance effect. The more radical and innovative idea, the longer society resists it. In conclusion, it is essential to emphasize that despite challenges and rejection, profound thinkers always believed in the importance of their discoveries and continued moving forward, knowing that the truth would eventually be heard. Concluding our narrative about profound thinkers, it's crucial to highlight an essential truth at the core of their stories. Humanity evolves, progresses, and transforms its consciousness precisely because of such individuals. Despite societal resistance and misunderstanding, brilliant ideas eventually find their path to recognition. Yet this carries a profound lesson. Everyone who seeks a deeper understanding of reality must accept and realize that society's resistance is inevitable. People will always reject what they don't understand and fear what disrupts their familiar worldview. Nevertheless, every deep thinker must remember that their voice matters. Even if it echoes in silence and solitude, history teaches us that genuine discoveries and breakthroughs have never been achieved by those seeking universal approval. Instead, these breakthroughs belong to those courageous enough to swim against the current, unafraid of being misunderstood, patiently awaiting their moment. It is precisely these individuals remaining faithful to their convictions who ultimately change the world. The moral of this story is both simple and profound. Don't fear being different. Don't fear thinking differently or seeing deeper than what is generally accepted. Your thoughts, however complex and uncomfortable they may appear to others, have the right to exist. They are seeds of future change that will one day sprout and bear fruit. Though the world isn't always ready to immediately embrace truth, remember, nothing is more powerful or significant than authentic thought. Keep searching, keep thinking, and remain sincere in your quest to understand and change the world for the better. Truth always triumphs, not instantly, not swiftly, but inevitably.